News Radio 700 WLW.
So has the Secret Service reached a point where it simply can't protect anyone because of the society we live in, instantaneous information being shared? Or is it simply a case of the people that are in charge, and it would begin with Ronald Rowe, who was Kim Cheadle's chief assistant, now the acting Secret Service director? Or would it be that these people that have been promoted from within are simply incompetent? Standing by to weigh in is a man who is an expert in protection and counterintelligence. He heads up a company called the Black Rhino Group, 23-year career as an executive protection agent. His name is Frank Roberson. We've had Frank on the show before. He's kind enough to join us again here on 700 WLW. Frank, how are you on this glorious day?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
Doing well. I'm not worried about any more. Maybe I should. Somebody coming after me. But the fact of the matter is, Frank, this is the same failure that happened on July 13th. They did not secure the perimeter of Mar-a-Lago simply as they did not secure the perimeter of what happened in Butler County, Pennsylvania. So either they didn't learn a lesson or these people are just incompetent. It can't be one or the other. It has to be one or the other, right?
Yeah, I think there's a complacency there, too. And you mentioned in your opening there about being now being proactive instead of reactive. The whole point of being in protection and in the Secret Service, diplomatic security service with State Department, any protection organization, whether it's a state office of the state troopers, there's a reason why they don't use uniformed Secret Service officers in the protection detail, because there's a completely different mindset to it, and it has to be proactive. It has to be thinking about the future and what can happen and having that imagination. This golf course, when you take it as a whole, yeah, to the normal person, it looks like a huge place to secure. But when you look at and drill down to exactly where Donald Trump is going to be, he's not going to be in the entire golf course at the same time. So it makes it easier to take those segments and protect them. And in the past, they have had Secret Service agents at those vulnerabilities at that golf course, at the same golf course. A whistleblower came out to Senator Hawley and said they've had people there all the time. And you're correct that the media camps out there. But also in the press conference earlier this week, they mentioned that they don't think anyone swept the fence line. I don't understand how the perimeter is the basic number one thing you do in your pre-advance before you go to do your full advance. The perimeter is the first thing you're looking at, and I don't understand how they're missing the first thing on the list that you got to do.
It's to me, what's flabbergasting here is apparently there were a whole cadre of people at the top in the Secret Service that were promoted this past week. And so there doesn't seem to be any accountability. I just listened a little bit to what Ronald Rowe just had to say, and he said that there will be discipline taken inside the Secret Service for what happened on July 13th, and one would guess what happened on Sunday. But he wouldn't go into detail on it. To my knowledge, nobody's been fired. And I think and I would think the first thing you would want to do is identify the incompetence and fire those people. You don't like things la-di-da from July 13th until now, almost 2 months later, without just doing, they knew exactly where the problem was within hours of that assassination attempt. And you don't need Ron Rowe to get trotted out 2 months from then. This is simply cover your ass stuff he's doing right now.
Correct. And what they're doing is they're having people retire early that are scheduled to retire or planning on it over the next year or so. It's still not, they're still going to get their full pensions. No one's getting cut out of the service where it was gross negligence or anything. And the staffing issues, it's really great soundbite to say we're going to beef up the security, but they used Homeland Security investigators that watched a webinar for an hour or two in Butler, Pennsylvania. When you have dignitary protection divisions in each state patrol, state police department, you have State Department, you have other agencies that you can call on to put agents that are trained to protect rather than investigate. And I just don't get that. And with the golf course, I can take a high-value client. For about 9 years, I had a client. There were 4 of us protecting a gentleman that had a threat against him. Him and his family were threatened. And I can go to Florida to the same golf course, call up the sheriff's department, and pay for off-duty officers to park along the sides of the fence outside the perimeter of the golf course until my client is safely gone from the golf course. And if I can pay for extra manpower to be there, surely the Secret Service can pick up the phone and call somebody and put them there.
Sure. And look, the Secret Service, at least in the last survey of places to work inside the federal government, did not get very high marks. I mean, they were at the bottom of the list. And I think they had a real culture problem with the woman that was running the department there. She's gone. So, I mean, I understand that there's stress inside there with manpower and whatnot. But they seem to not embrace technology. I mean, this kid that shot Trump in Butler County, Pennsylvania, he had a drone. Now, why he was allowed to have a drone, I don't know. But the Secret Service don't use drones. In this day and age where warfare probably, the next time we're at war, God forbid, is going to be conducted by drones, if you can't protect your asset with the best technology, what the hell are you doing out there? They just seem to be stuck in the mud at that agency. Would you agree?
I would. I mean, I did a counterintelligence memo on our foreign adversaries using drones as weapons. And the scary thing about all this that's going on is we used to think there was this bubble around presidents, vice presidents, former presidents, where you couldn't get within miles of this bubble. And these two amateurs popped that bubble for America. Now Americans are like, oh my goodness, what's going on? But our foreign adversaries are going, holy smokes, the guy flew a drone. Shoot, if we had a drone flying over there, we have weapons on our drones they're bombing U.S. installations overseas. They've opened up a blueprint for any of our enemies to be able to make an attempt. Yep. And that's what the scary part is. We got, less than 50 days left for the election, and you got more rhetoric came out 2 days afterwards that isn't helping. Secretary Clinton didn't help the situation, toning down any rhetoric the day after. I mean, somebody's going to be in their basement thinking they're going to save our country, and that's where these guys are coming from.
Trump and his team apparently have been asking for more protection, more help, and allegedly the protection and help was beefed up after July 13th. I was always under the impression, and again, I'm an outsider. I have no working knowledge of how your business works, but I was always under the impression that you give the most protection to the most vulnerable asset. And I'm sorry, Joe Biden is not as vulnerable as Donald Trump. Secretary or ambassador to the United Nations is not as vulnerable as Donald Trump. And I think maybe this whole thing about, we got to protect this person because this person is important in the chain of command. Well, maybe so, but you don't do that at the risk of the most vulnerable asset that's out there. I think this was a misappropriation of assets on the part of the Secret Service. Would you agree?
I would. Butler, Pennsylvania. Jill Biden had 12 agents on her in Philly that weekend. You don't think they could have protected her with 8? Hunter Biden has Secret Service protection. You couldn't pull 1 or 2 guys off of his protection detail. He doesn't have the threats that Donald Trump has. Yeah. I mean, I agree with that, but both Butler and this one came down to the most simple, basic thing that you're supposed to do. Now, I'm saying that I've been an advanced guy. That's my expertise, advanced operations. The first thing you do is walk, even if you just have one guy walking from the sheriff's department with a canine, a hole ahead, like that agent was going along a hole ahead. If that agent hadn't seen that barrel popping through when Trump got to the 6th screen, he would have been sitting duck.
Absolutely.
You got to have canine unit walk the fence line. If you don't have access to 4 off-duty officers or 4 patrol cars outside the perimeter, there's other ways to do it, even if you're short staff. But here's the thing: it's a great soundbite to say you're going to add the staff, beef up the staff, and hire more agents. But those guys aren't going to be online for a year and a half. The training is so rigorous for the Secret Service. You can hire 50 of them today. They're not going to be in service well after these incidents are done and gone. Well,
they're in the Department of Homeland Security, and we all know exactly how that group operates. Just look at the southern border. It probably, at one time, the Secret Service was under the purview of the Secretary of the Treasury. So I'm not sure if there was if this is all post 9/11. Perhaps it is. I think first of all you got to look at just how it's organizationally set up. But secondly, I think there's got to be a purge at the time. If something goes wrong once, okay, you know, they got to be right 100% of the time. The other guy's got to be right just 1% of the time. But when it goes wrong twice, I think you got to look at people at the top and hold them accountable. And here today is Ron Rowe, and the only reason why he's out there doing a news conference right now is because he's catching it from whistleblowers and from Congress. And you bet his rear end's probably going to be back up on Capitol Hill sooner than later. You can't keep going down this road saying we're going to get more. You give more to something that isn't working, it just means that more will not be working. And I Frank, I just don't understand why nobody in this administration ever gets fired. Maybe they'll.
I don't either. But where's Rowe's boss, Mayorkas? Where's he been? He hasn't come out and said a darn thing about any of these things. I haven't seen him doing press conferences. He's oversees the Secret Service. Yeah. He is the buck stops with him when it comes to the Secret Service. I mean, Director Rowe is replaceable. He's acting director. He's not even the actual director yet. But where's his boss? Yeah. I mean, I don't understand how. It's all the leadership, because everyday agents, those guys that are there to take the bullets, the guy that saw the rifle scope, the guys that are on the roof and took Donald Trump to the ground in Butler, those are the guys that are out there every single day, and every American should have the confidence that they're going to take a bullet for the president. It's the decisions that are made on the perimeter, that are made in the pre-advance meetings before they get there, and somebody's saying no, somebody's saying yes, somebody's saying nah, don't worry about it, that ain't going to happen. Yeah. But hopefully we find out. And these whistleblowers, you're right. If they weren't coming out, we wouldn't be hearing all this.
Exactly. This guy, you couldn't find him with a search warrant. But anyway, Frank Roberson, we got to go. The Black Rhino Group is where you find him. BlackRhinoGRP.com. And it was great having you back on the show. Thanks for the insight. We appreciate it. Stay well and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.